Sorry for the terrible setup. I didn't have a lot of time to put into working out how to record this because I felt like I had to respond quickly to what is taken off. So I've seen this specific article that I'm going to be talking about posted in like every witch group that I'm in on Facebook. It's on Twitter. People I follow on Twitter have obviously reblogged it or retweeted it. That's how the internet works. I don't know. But what I'm referring to is this article, which is in The Independent, which I always thought was a quality newspaper, but I guess it's a tabloid now. Good to know. And it's called "I Spent a Week Becoming a Witch and the Results Were Worrying" by Seri Radford, who I've never heard of before. It was published 2 days ago. It has 87 comments at the moment. Not many of them complimentary. And obviously a lot of people are annoyed, which is probably, you know, the aim, because if you can't sell papers with actual news, sell them with outrage. So I thought I'd just go through it and just share why I find this article worrying and wrong, and if they put any effort into researching it whatsoever, what could have been right about it. Incidentally, The Guardian's done a number of pieces about the resurgence of modern interest in witchcraft, which actually had research in them, so I suggest you go read those instead. So it begins. It's the new year. I could have given up booze and bacon or embarked on a punishing new fitness regime, but these seemed too harsh for the drab days of January, and besides, I had more ambitious plans for personal transformation, namely to turn myself into a witch. One does not want to turn oneself into a witch, you just start practicing witchcraft. You know, you don't change into something. Also, the things she's compared it to, like a new fitness regime, or like giving up booze or bacon, and the fact that she did this for a week kind of makes it seem like she thinks that witchcraft is like Zumba, in that you can just do it for a week. It's not. You have to like learn. It's sort of like someone just randomly deciding, I'm going to be Spanish for the week, or I'm going to learn Spanish in a week. It just doesn't happen that way. There's a lot more you have to learn. But anywho, at this opening of a scary new decade, we're in the midst of a resurgent interest in all things mystic, superstitious, or more than a little bit woo. As the New Yorker magazine observed, astrology is currently enjoying a broad cultural acceptance that hasn't been seen since the 1970s, and its cousin in dogged resistance to logic, specifically witchcraft, is also having something of a moment, refitted for the age of self-care as a way for women to reconnect with themselves in the natural world. Witchcraft isn't just for women, men practice witchcraft as well. Both of those things have been going on since at least the 1970s, what with Wicca obviously being created in the 1950s. This has been, you know, on its way for a while. And also I love that it's the dogged resistance to logic. And we'll see later on she goes into this kind of thing where she seems to think that if you believe in anything religious or spiritual in any sense, then you're an anti-vaxxer who abuses their kids by denying them medical care. She then says that she's going by a book called The Modern Witch's Guide to Happiness by Luna Bailey, which I've never read and had to look up because I needed to find out. I don't know if it's a very good book. It's on the Waterstones website, so I'm guessing it's one that's really commercially available, and probably just an introductory book to witchcraft that favours the more love and light aspects. Just guessing based on the cover. Right. Monday. Right, this witching business. One of the things I need, along with a suspension of belief in the scientific underpinnings of the universe, is an altar. Shockingly, I've been a witch since, I think, the year 2000, 2001. Like, not that, like, quite a long time now. I believe in science. I regularly get exasperated and annoyed with people who don't believe in science, like climate change deniers, people who just refuse to vaccinate their children because they think essential oils can cure polio. I'm just as interested in science as everybody else. I just also happen to believe in the spiritual practice. A lot of people in the world are religious and they also believe in science. Some people are morons who think ectopic pregnancies can just be reimplanted in the uterus because, I don't know, maybe baby Jesus will come and kiss it better and then they'll be born and raised. I don't really understand. But there are perfectly logical religious people out there who also believe in science. So I don't really get what she's getting at here. She then continues on the subject of altars. Not to sacrifice a goat upon. No, this book is whiter than a student union snowflake. Okay. But to claim a space for creativity, spiritual growth and guidance. Apparently all these things are bad. Recommendations include some bright cloth salt, protective and purifying, and represents the earth's energy, plus objects to suggest blah 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 blah. I manage a pot plant, a small bottle of Polish plum vodka, spirit and fire in one, boom. No. I'm guessing that the book actually did tell you what spirit the element actually is, but you just decided to put in a substandard pun. It doesn't look anything like the Instagrammable extravaganza in the book, but at least it made me tidy my bedside table. By the end of the day, though, it's been joined by a light smattering of cat hair and my 4-year-old's Lego T-Rex. Is the universe trying to tell me something? Not really. Like, I live in a house with other people. Sometimes they'll come in and put stuff on my altar and I just remove it to a different location. Maybe the universe is trying to tell you to be less childish. Just a thought. Tuesday. Crystal shopping time. No self-respecting witch in this new age of Aquarius will be without these ubiquitous lumps of pretty rock. So it's good to know she's going into this with an open mind, given her language is obviously not very positive about any of these things. You could describe a lot of things as just pretty rock. Like, jewellery is just pretty rocks, but people still pay a lot of money for them and ascribe a lot of worth to them. So if you want to put a pretty crystal in your house to look at and have it look nice, that's fine. You don't actually need them, because it's, again, like a practice, whether it's witchcraft or the religious practice of Wicca or other nature-centered religions. You don't need crystals, and the book would probably tell you that if it was a good book. The book informs me that I should allow myself to be drawn to the crystal that has meaning for me. I position myself in front of a stand of crystal bracelets. Will it be the pastel pink rose quartz, which with qualities of love, peace and tenderness, apparently laced into its silicon and oxygen atoms? Ah, I see, cause science. Or the playful inky black bornite. I close my eyes, then open them. I find myself uncannily drawn to something after all. It's the price tag. 10 quid! I am propelled out of the shop by unseen forces. I love how she's talking about atoms and things to sound scientific and high-minded. You know, you can like crystals just because they're pretty as well. But also it is very interesting to find out how they develop, the different types of quartz and things like that. For instance, amethyst and citrine, different types of quartz, which is really interesting to find out about. Again, it's about belief. If you believe crystals have these healing qualities, I don't really see anything wrong with that, up until the point then you're just denying yourself conventional medical care. It's called complementary medicine for a reason. So, again, I think she's just trying to score easy points against something that she doesn't really understand. Wednesday. Finally, some advice I can wholeheartedly embrace. 5 tips for making simple connections with nature, from touching leaves to noticing sights and sounds. Tricky but not impossible if you're schlepping to work on the tube. Easy where I live and instantly soothing. A frail yellow autumn leaf clinging by a thread, a rubbery weed poking through a desert of gravel. You get the picture. Another edict is to appreciate the seasons, including picking up an acorn or pine cone in autumn and keeping it through winter. Turns out I was witchy all along, as some colleagues would probably attest. In my coat pocket I still have a perfect hard conker that I found in October. I don't believe it offered me protection through the winter months, as the book claimed. I just like the feel of it. I suspect a large part of the appeal of witchcraft today is the emphasis it places on slowing down, switching off your phone, and taking notice of the natural world. Wow! For a second there, it actually sounded like someone intelligent with an open mind was writing this article. But don't worry, because we continue into Thursday. Since I am well into my first week as a witch, I decide the time has come to attempt my first spell. None of the magic incantations listed involve putting a pox on my enemies, which will be a relief to the landlord who has failed to fix my broken boiler. They're all perky personal growth exercises. After a skim, I settle on a burning and banishing spell. This involves writing down worries or unwanted personality traits on a piece of paper, then setting fire to it. Next to tax return, I put knee-jerk, scoffing cynicism. I would have set it on fire, but I was too cynical to waste a match. So, she didn't do the spell correctly, and doesn't really know how to do spells if she hasn't really been looking into how to do this for so long. Can you imagine someone writing, "As I've been a Christian for 1 week now, I decided to do my first prayer today. Oh, it didn't work by noon. Well, I guess Christianity is bullshit and everyone who follows it is a sucker." No, because I guess it's just not fashionable to take the piss out of established religions. In fairness, there is a reasonable body of evidence to suggest that journaling is good for us. Taking time to think about and articulate what we want to let go of is no doubt psychologically healthy. For me, it's the puff of smoke that's a step too far. Okay, that's you. Again, this is just her putting forward her personal opinions and feelings as facts. If it's good to write those things in a journal, how is it worse to write them down and then let them go symbolically? We don't know. Friday. The last weekday and time to take it up a level. I open the chapter on tarot and prepare to dabble in divination. I don't have an actual set of cards, but witchcraft has a relaxed homespun kind of vibe, so I improvise. Uh-oh. I raid my daughter's toy drawer, find a set of sea creature playing cards and get reading. I must focus on my personal objectives, then hold the cards or lay them on a surface. The book suggests I start by selecting 3 cards and using them to answer 3 questions. For an actual moment I find myself thinking, this makes sense. I want to spend more time on creative work. Fear is holding me back. But in reality I'm still a creative person underneath. And there we have it, confirmation bias. You go looking for a pattern and you will find it, even in a pack of deeply non-mystic marine animal cards, bought to entertain a small child on a rainy holiday in France. Our brains are built to leap to conclusions, to see what's not really there. Helpful if the twitching leaves might hold a crouching saber-toothed tiger, misleading in modernity. So I don't think she understands the point of tarot cards. The cards aren't magic. They are literally what she's saying about these sea creature cards. They're just printed cards. It's the fact of you looking at them and recognising patterns that might be harder to see if you're just sitting there with your own thoughts trying to work out what's wrong. Yes, you can believe that the cards coming up and the intuition that guides you is a mystical thing, but on the surface of it, reading tarot cards is basically just reading your own mind in terms of your thoughts, your dreams, what you believe is holding you back, and helping you to articulate those things through symbolism, which, again, either the book doesn't say, or she's too hell-bent on making this all sound ridiculous to work out. Then she finally gets to Saturday and Sunday, which is when she reaches her kind of overarching thesis statement. Rediscovering nature, reclaiming the sexist trope of the witch as a symbol of female empowerment, switching off from the constant thrum of social media and consumerism, what's not to like? The answer, of course, is that however benign or even beneficial the rituals, it's all built on a wobbling base of batshit. No matter how many spells we cast to ask the universe for help, the universe isn't listening. That's definitely her opinion. I don't know why it's being stated as fact. On a personal level, it's probably better for us to just accept that life doesn't always go our way and lower our expectations. And on a broader level, the recent zest for the mystic is part of a worrying backlash against the Enlightenment values that have driven human progress. Is it? Because it seems to be a sort of backlash against organised religion and the sexism that comes from mostly Abrahamic religions that people have been struggling under. And it's not like those religions have in their entire history been very approving of science, whereas I think speaking only for myself, which is the only person I can speak to, I find the Wiccan community and the pagan community at large a lot more open to science, because they like to see the intersection of where the physical and the biological meets the magical, because those things are intertwined. Like, we don't know half of the stuff that's out there in space or anything like that, and the idea of wanting to investigate that and discover it, and that craving for knowledge, the hidden knowledge, is sort of a marking feature of the occult community and the pagan community itself, as opposed to when I was more in a Christian background. It's kind of like, this is the thing that we say is true, and to question that, to go outside of that, is frowned upon. And, you know, obviously then executing people as heretics for saying things like, you know, the earth is round and things like that. But there's more. On the one end of the political spectrum you get the anti-vax movement, on the other climate change deniers. Standing in the light of a full moon to recite our resolutions may be harmless, but as a society we shun science at our peril. There is nothing in witchcraft that says you have to shun science. The two things that she's given, climate change and anti-vax, those are just opinions that people have that aren't necessarily even tied to a spiritual belief. And in fact, both of them are kind of rooted in pseudoscience, so really it's just about being discerning about what you read, which has nothing to do with the subject of witchcraft, but I guess if you want to put the boot in on people who have not harmed you in any way just having their own personal beliefs, then you can just make shit up. This is just a terrible article from start to finish. For one thing, I don't understand the point of it. She doesn't go out and meet any people in the pagan community. She doesn't go out and talk to any of them, look on blogs or YouTubers or anything of that, like to actually engage with it. She picks up one book, she says, oh, I'm going to do this for a week. She makes fun of it the whole week with preconceived notions of what it is she's going to find, with her confirmation bias, which she then says, oh, well, this is silly because I felt silly while I was doing it. Yeah, because it's not your belief system, Karen. I would feel pretty silly going into just a different place of worship and trying to follow the rules of a different established religion, or even just like going into like a yoga studio or something that's more of like a practice than an actual religion, and trying to just off the cuff just decide that I'm an expert in a week. That would make me feel silly, because I would be being silly. So yeah, it's just quite an offensive and stupid article, and the thing is, I'm not really offended by it, because it's hard to be offended by something that is so wrong that it basically has nothing to do with you. The thing that offends me about it is that there is so much to talk about. There's like a whole movement of just witches against white supremacy, of standing up to like sexist politicians, people protesting, really interesting things that you can say about where people's disenfranchisement with organised religion is coming from, why this speaks to them. But no, you decide to take a picture of yourself in a Halloween witch's hat and do like essentially a BuzzFeed article of like, oh, I try being a witch for a week. And that's just not journalism, it's just pap. It just makes no sense, and I don't understand how this got published when people must have looked at it and thought, oh, okay, this is, you know, taking the piss out of religion that someone tried to be for a week. I see no problem with that whatsoever. Straight to print, and it just makes no sense. And I just felt like I should do a video on it, because a lot of people are getting annoyed by it and talking about it, and I thought it would be interesting to see what you guys had to think first off. Bring it to your attention if you haven't, and sort of see what camp you come in, because on the pagan groups I'm in, there have been people writing complaints to the Independent. There have been people kind of laughing that off, and there have been people who just found it kind of funny, and some people were even defending this and being like, oh well, no one can learn their spiritual path overnight, to which my response would be, that's not what she's trying to do. Like, I have no problem with people who have a sincere interest in witchcraft practicing for like just a week or a couple of days, like, because they're at the start of their journey. But if they're just a tourist coming in and being like, oh, okay, I'm just going to play at this for a week and then take the piss, I don't think that's hugely deserving of respect. It's really not. It's like someone turning up at an open circle dressed as Harry Potter just to cause uproar and annoy people, and it smacks just of attention seeking more than anything else. So that has been Sarah's quibble hour, and I hope you go off and check the Guardian website for some better articles about witchcraft. I'll try and find them again and link them below, and in the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!